Now they're going to come to the ridge known as the Mount of Olives. It's several miles long. Bethany, Bethpage are all on that ridge. When you come to the top of the ridge of the Mount of Olives, it's several hundred feet taller than Mount Moriah or Mount Zion. So it's a beautiful view as you come into the city. You come down the Kidron Valley, then into the eastern gate. Well, Jesus is making this last trek in Jerusalem. We think it's the last week of his life, Passover week. And that tremendous welcome is going to occur. So let's look at it if we could. As they came near Jerusalem, had come to Bethpage. Now, Bethpage, we're not exactly sure where it is. Matter of fact, this whole triumphant entry has several parallels in the Gospels. It's found here in Matthew 21, 1 through 9. It's found in Mark 11, 1 through 10 in greater detail. It's found in Luke 19, 29 through 44, and briefly in John 12, 12 through 19. Now, Bethpage means house of figs. We're not exactly sure of the geographical location of this city, but it's obviously between Bethany, of course, the site of Mary and Martha and Lazarus' house. From John, we know Jesus stayed there many nights this last week. And it's about halfway between Bethany and Jerusalem, which is just a couple of miles. And the Mount of Olives is probably known because olives grew there so much. Now, I want to say to you, the olive trees you see today cannot be the original ones because when the Muslims took over, soon after, several hundred years after this, they cut all the trees down to remove all the holy sites. And so these are old trees there today, but not these same trees. Jesus sent two disciples. We're not sure who it is, but from Luke, it seems it's probably Peter and John. They're the ones that are going to be sent on many different tasks after this. Who, we don't know. Now, from John 12:14, it seems to imply he just found the donkey. But the synoptics seem to imply that he planned this. Now, some wonder, is this a miracle of his foreknowledge? Or is this prearrangements? Well, there are times in the Gospels where it obviously is one and obviously is another. This one is not obvious either way. It seems to be pre-planning, but I'm not sure about that. And ordered them, go into a village that's ahead of you, probably Bethpage, and at once you will find a donkey. Now, why a donkey? Well, I think it's interesting for us to know because it's so different from our culture. We don't use donkeys much in this culture. The Army used them some in earlier years out in the southwest part of the United States, but donkeys aren't used much anymore. They even have a reputation of being kind of an obstinate animal. They're not thought of as a noble animal, and that's probably our cultural problem with this passage. Now, a donkey in the ancient Near East was a royal mount. Now, think about that. The king had his own donkey, and no one rode this donkey but the king. So it's a symbol of royalty. We see that in the life of...
What they're doing is they're attacking me with using theta waves. The R&M supercomputer uses theta waves, where it uses pain and trauma. These remote neural attacks to disrupt my continuity of thought, erase short-term memory, to disrupt the external interference, or I should say the cognitive effect of the external interference. Caused by the Christian content, which is breaking brain entrainment with their system and de-patterning the satanic ritual abuse. It goes on and on. It's called censorship, using remote neural attacks, using a pain stimulus, basically restricting the victim at will. But it also allows them, while the victim is reading the Bible or viewing Christian content, to modify the victim's memory with remote neural attacks, fabricated and falsified memories, blocking and injection methods without the victim being aware. And being able to fight back against the system's influences. It just goes on and on. It's just been happening. This is constant. Force the victim to respond. The attacks were so severe that it's just not me yawning and drowsing. I mean, for a split second, when the remote neural attack happens, my vision will just blur out. It's just, I'll just almost pass out. And then a split second later, I'm I'm back to semi alert status. So they're using data waves, um, and the attacks are somewhere between 4 and 7 hertz data. Been going on for years. It's all a game. CIA and DIA trauma-based mind control is a deadly game of deception and manipulation. They always do what's most difficult with the victim. Um, in my case, I've been targeting my Christian faith for years, because it's all about training, research, and development. Um, and I just didn't know what else to do except to film that it was happening, because it's been going on for years, years and years. Every time I try to read my Bible, same thing. Spraying 2 in Quito, Ecuador, April 16, 2017.